one of you. And I always remind people, you have a gift in you and you need to have that glow and shine through the world, because it's something that you bring to the table for somebody out there that needs you. But if they can't see you and you're not visible, then you're hiding your talents. And as we say, if you know in the Bible, it says, the person that hid those talents, guess what? That was a big no-no, especially when it was given from our Creator, our Lord. So with that, I just want to make sure that I'm kind of that cheerleader, that rah-rah person behind people to say, look, we need to put you out there. Plus, what we do on this show as well is each expert that I bring on, I pull a little bit information about how they make themselves visible to the world. So that gives you some golden nuggets. So I want you to listen when we have these guests on, because they can tell you something that they do that might work for you, or they might say something that, you know what, I try to do this with visibility, or I got myself on YouTube, it didn't really work out that well, or I did something different, whatever the case may be. And you learn from our mistakes. I always tell people, learn from my mistakes. So with that said, we have a wonderful, usually when I have women on my show, I call them queens. But when you have kings come on, that is amazing. And I have a wonderful king coming on. He is royalty. He is royalty celebrity in my book, and you'll be yours too. Mr. Chris Salem. He is accomplished business acceleration strategist, professional keynote speaker, award-winning author, business trainer, and radio show host and media personnel. Dedicated to empower business leaders and their business to boost their brand and business simultaneously from ordinary to extraordinary. I love that. His goal is straightforward: to help serious business owners foster better workplace environment that leads to higher engagement and retention with staff, which generating more clients, increasing customers' experience, and scaling their overall revenue and profit quickly and inexpensively. Now, saying all that, you see why he's royalty. So with that, I just can't just bring on royalty. I got to make sure I do it right. So we will be right back after this one little clip. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Barbara, it's a pleasure to be here. Love the introduction, and thank you so much. And I am so honored to be here to share today.
Yes. And like I said, you're royalty. So sometimes I'll be calling you king through our conversations, so you understand, you wear that crown well. So thank you again for you coming on the Visibility Corner with myself. And like I said, I really like to bring people on first, kind of get to know you, who you are, what you're doing, the lighthouse in the world, as I always say. And then towards the end, just maybe giving like one tip that you found that helps you with visibility. So let's go to what you do. And I mean, all the wonderful things you do. I mean, you're a speaker, you're an author, you're basically helping businesses grow through retention. And that's really, to me, because I work in the corporate world too during the day, that's like a biggie. So I'm loving that you do that. But how did you even get to that? Why did you say, I want to do all this?
Well, I mean, I spent my first 10 years in corporate, and then the last 10 years I worked outside of it representing corporate from a sales capacity. And now in the last 13 years, I've been doing it as a business acceleration strategist, executive coach, and been professional speaking for 23 years. But what got me into this is I've always had a desire to help people. I've always had a desire to see people really rise up in their role and duties, whatever that may be, to really play at a higher level. And when I say higher level, I don't mean, doesn't necessarily have to be about money. I'm talking about as a human being, how we can rise up to inspire and empower others to do the same. Because if we could create a more interdependent versus a codependent environment, whether in our homes, communities, businesses, we can all experience prosperity on various levels. It's just, like people in general, that we have a tendency of holding ourselves back. And I'm just all about inspiring people to bring out their best. It's not about being the best. It's about being your best. How can I show up to be better than I was yesterday, and then be an example and be a resource for others to do the same?
I love that. I love that. And because like I was saying earlier, everybody has their own gift, their own talents. And a lot of times you can become, and you don't even realize it, like a cookie cutter in your own, where you're working at. I know I felt that way because like you said, been in the corporate world for a long time. You were in it, then you were helping, and then you're helping the businesses to, get better. You can lose yourself. You can lose yourself with that.
Exactly. It really it's all about, really taking ownership of yourself in terms of your own personal and professional development, learning to elevate your level of communication, because how you communicate to yourself will determine how effectively you communicate to another human being or people, especially in the corporate setting. When we can learn now to really communicate in a positive and healthy way to ourselves each and every day from our inner champions versus our inner critic, for the most part, we have a tendency of shifting our communication from being passive, which typically we say yes to everything, and we kind of drop everything that we're doing to cater to others to fulfill their objectives, undermining our own. And if we're aggressive, we tend to be perfectionists. We tend to demand too much from people. We have expectations about ourselves and from other people that are just unrealistic and go unfulfilled. We can learn to shift away from that to being assertive, where the communication is specific, clear, and concise, leaving no room for assumption and speculation. And that's the type of communication coupled with active listening, really listening to relate and understand before you respond. That is the game changer in any type of business or organization to take to the next level. What you do on the inside reflects on the outside in the experiences that you create for your customers, clients, patients, whatever type of business that you're in, to increase your business.
Yes. I love, Chris, how you brought up about the communication. And I always tell people, and I want you to kind of reflect on this too, that with communication, in my mind, according to Barbara, that it's like maybe 85% listening and the rest is the talking, because you need to really listen to what a person's saying, because sometimes they don't tell you, but they tell you by body language, they tell you about how, in other ways. And if you miss the mark on that, you're really not getting to the core on what they're really feeling and what they're talking about. What do you think on that point?
Oh, it's so true. I mean, here's the thing I always say in share, Barbara. I never tell, but I always share, because, I can't control what someone's going to do with what I share, but I can control what I share. So when I look at, the certain things, is I can only control 5 things each and every day. That's my communication to myself and other people. My behavior is my behavior in alignment with my communication in an assertive versus a passive aggressive way. My attitude, that it's happening for me, not to me. For me, I see challenges, obstacles as opportunities to grow and expand, instead of happening to me where I'm the victim. And I tend to then I'd have a tendency to gossip, complain, point the finger at things, and so on. Then my emotions, I can control that, meaning that I can learn to respond versus react to situations and people. Even though my primary emotion might be a negative one, I can choose to respond from the secondary emotion, which could be positive. And then my action. So when I can learn to control those 5 things and let go of the same 5 things in other people, it shifts my thinking now as a leader in any type of role or duty that I have, to now operate from intentions, not expectations. I can control my intentions. I can't control expectations. So when I can learn to focus on those 5 things I can control, letting go of the 5 things I can now learn to focus in the moment, not in the past and the future, where fear thrives, and trust the process. And for me, when I see people taking ownership of that, one person at a time, then being an example and a resource on a daily basis, leading by that example and helping someone else to do that, if it has that ripple effect over time, you create this interdependent environment, a psychologically safe environment, not one that's going to enable people to stay stuck, but encourage people to stretch themselves, not strain, to come out of their comfort zones and grow through the challenges, to become more for different and better results. It's just a magnificent process. It just starts with you because you're only responsible for you. You're not responsible for anyone else except being the example and a resource for it.
That's so true. That's so true. I mean, I was just talking and having a conversation last night on another show I was on, and we were talking about, either you could respond like something, what you're saying, you can respond or react. And I tell people, I said, but you have to make that choice. So like you said, you can, you're in you all the time. You know you all the time. You know what you can do and what you're not going to do and everything. So you got to, like you said, you got to work on yourself and then be open to others to listen to what they're talking about instead of putting them in that little box because you're like, well, I don't, because it's so easy to say, well, I understand. I was like, okay, are you even trying to understand?
You just touched on something so important. Here's another thing in this process, which is ideal for any business, even a family, a community. It doesn't matter as long as you got people together. It's learning to look at the situation for what it is, not what you think it should be. See, when you approach things from what you think it should be, you come in now with all your natural biases. You come in with your opinion, and there's nothing wrong with your opinion. And there's nothing wrong because there are going to be natural biases. But when we can learn now to look at things for what it is, we can still have a voice and still have an opinion, but we're going to utilize whatever is best for the situation. This is what's so beautiful about living in this diverse world that we live in more than ever today, is because now we can get great insights and input and from different perspectives from all types of people, from all different generational types, all different ethnic backgrounds or genders, how you look at it. And it's about what's best for the situation, for what is versus what we think it should be. This can also help to offset potential conflict, toxicity in the workplace. I'm not saying it eliminates it, but it will definitely help to offset it so that when we can bring that conflict and stress down to a very moderate level, it's actually a good thing because it encourages now people to solve problems, create solutions. And it's those people and organizations that commit to that process that really see the big changes and the results from it when committed to that process.
Ooh, that is good. Oh, so much. You dropped a lot of good gold nuggets. The one thing I want to go back on what you said, though, is they basically not bringing your biases and everything because you already setting yourself up, to me, to fail in doing that communication because you're already saying, well, whatever they say, I'm going to say this. I mean, that's usually when you have that. I don't care what they say, how they feel. This is what I'm going to tell them. This is what I'm going to share, and we're done. And just like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, we get defensive, and again, it's not about right or wrong. I mean, everybody can look at from a different perspective. What you think is right, somebody thinks is wrong, and vice versa. It's again about what is. I mean, yes, we can't control these things, the world we live in terms of laws and rules, and and a lot of them are put there obviously to help provide some governance to keep us in check and so on, to do the right thing. But nonetheless, that doesn't mean everyone's going to see it, eye to eye. And that's okay. It's about, again, what can we do that's going to help move, get beyond a situation, to move away from something that's not working to what is. And even if it's your idea that wasn't utilized, doesn't mean that it won't be utilized sometime in the future, especially the people and the organizations that are committed to raising the bar with their communication through active listening, relating to understand before responding, and using effective communication from a place of assertiveness where we are specific, clear, and concise. No matter who the sender or the receiver is, you're responsible for that. Remember that we're not responsible for someone else's communication, but we're always responsible as the sender receiver with that from ourselves.
Yes. And I want to ask you too, Chris, because I love what you're saying, because I want to dive in a little bit into one of the things that you do out of everything you do, as being that business strategist that you do, is engagement and retention strategy for companies. Now, I'm going to put this out here, because in corporate, and we know for you years, the biggest thing right now is D&I. That's like, it seems like everywhere you go, D&I, right? But the thing that I've noticed in I'm going to say in where the corporate world I work at, is they just kind of put something together and say, okay, we're making sure diversity in all areas, not just Black people, not just, brown people, but just everybody, people that are, in different, and we're just going to put something together and you'll like it. And here you go. We did it. Check mark. And the thing that I was so not upset, I was disappointed in, is they didn't ask the question. They didn't ask the question to us. So the engagement and the retention fell because of that. So I want you to kind of give your relate on that part.
Yeah. And this is something, Barbara, I can relate 100% because I do this all the time. I go in and do corporate trainings or awareness sessions, and it's just that. It's, we did it. We checked the box off. But see, this is a process. These are things that have been hardwired into people ever since they were little babies. I mean, by the time, like the stuff was drilled into our heads growing up. And if we're going to change our way of thinking and how we look at things, especially in this diverse world we live in, it's like with anything, we have to practice. We have to make these shifts in terms of how we think and how we communicate over time. So it isn't a one and done where you come in for an hour and, hey, we did a thing on DEI or D&I. We're now part of the list that we've satisfied and we cater to that. No, because again, people will default right back to the same behaviors, same way of communicating, same attitudes, same reactions instead of responding from emotions and lack of action. It comes down to, again, committing to this and seeing that this process of doing this long term, yes, it's going to require time. It's going to require some people to be involved doing this part. It's going to require an investment. Yeah, sure. But think about long term what this can do for your organization in terms of retention, in terms of acquiring now new talent. And it's not the talent itself that's going to make you succeed. It's the talent that when you can bring out their values and to be vested in what you're doing from those values, now to utilize the talent. That's where you're going to get the most out of people because they're committed to where the vision of where your organization is going. It doesn't seem transactional or that they feel like they're just a number. So this is so important now more than ever that the organizations that truly commit long-term to developing their people. It's not putting people in through a workshop for, all day and taking up the whole day. No, you could drip this over an hour each week or a couple hours every other week, whatever, but over time where it begins to sink in. And I personally have done this with other organizations where we've done that and seen dramatic changes in their management at the middle management level, upper management level, and how that filtered down to the tactical level. And it can be done. It doesn't mean everyone's going to change or everyone's going to, be part of it. There's always going to be someone that's just, not, participate, or it could be more than that. But they're eventually going to move on anyway. And then you're going to bring someone in with similar shared values that can be plugged in to, complete the team.
Complete the team, yeah. And what I love what you do, Chris, is you giving people an awareness. You're telling them, look, I always tell people you don't know what you don't know. You don't know. But when you do know, and when you find out you have somebody as an expert like you come in, then I have to say there's really no excuse for you to start saying, well, I didn't get it. I didn't know I didn't supposed to do this with the group, or I didn't know I was supposed to communicate better. No, Chris just came in and told you that. I mean, he laid it out for you. And now, like you said, you drip every day. And I love how you said that instead of just putting a workshop, and that's what they do. You're right. You're right on point. One day, half day, lunch and learn, whatever they call it. You go there and you're like, okay, you're writing notes, and then you go back to your desk and then that's it. And you're done.
It just goes out. It's even in sales training, Barbara, I've even had, I'm not going to mention some of the bigger sales training organizations out there, but where they don't talk about is the foundation, how we think, developing our people's self-confidence, because all these different things and how to sell and how to engage and build rapport are great. But if we're doing it from a faulty foundation, it doesn't resonate go right back to the same old things that are operating from those self-limiting beliefs. They don't address the mindset. They don't address how to communicate properly to yourself and other people. When you can build that foundation and solidify it, and then now nurture it on an ongoing basis, provide an environment that encourages people to do that. Then when you start introducing some of these new processes and how we can now make better decisions, how we can solve problems better, it begins to stick. You begin to see the results from those efforts. And that way you can see the investment paying off. I think we just get caught up because we're looking for quick returns in a short period of time, because that's what shareholders and stakeholders require. But the reality is it doesn't exist. There is no such thing as a quick fix. And if you believe that's true, all power to you. But I have yet to see anything stick that's a quick turnaround or a quick fix. It's just not sustainable.
Yeah, like I'm like you, Chris. Yeah, if they do that, let us both know, because I want to know too.
Yeah, let me know. But I dedicate my life to this area. I do a lot of research, and I tested things, and I've never seen anything work. Even though it might appear to work at first, it ends up going right back to the same old thing. And it's just, and then they end up spending more money or long term on these short term fixes than when you could have done it with
just. Yeah, I always think that, but I know with time, but I do want to ask, because with time, but I want to kick this question to you, because I have seen this in business that has been kind of a problem too. And that's harmonizing internal and external growth. I think business struggles with that, to get that balance. I just want to get a little take from you regarding that.
So in terms of the clarify that for me, Barb, and I'll answer that for you. Say that again.
Well, because a lot of times in business, you have your internal rules and internal, and then you have the external where you have to, and that's your customers and everything. So how do you kind of harmonize that?
Well, the thing is again, we got to be able to find that it's about harmony, right? There's no such thing as balance. So we got to be able to operate from those values again, looking at with the values that we operate from the people we work with, the organization that we're with, how that aligns with ours, and finding where that is. And then how is that with our clients that we're serving? So we're looking to, that we're never going to be everything for everyone. That's even for people that you're working with or working for, and then the customers as well. So it's just doing our best always to do the right thing. And that's what we call integrity. So I'm a big believer in that. So the thing is, it's doing your best to find that harmony, to follow the protocol, the procedures that have been put in place, but knowing when there is autonomy to interject something that you feel can really build rapport, that shows compassion, empathy, and kindness, not pleasing and enabling to a customer, then you find that harmony to do that. We're not here to break rules and be the lone wolf and the rebel. Yes, even again, because you might truly believe your idea is far greater than what the organization is, and maybe perhaps it is, but nonetheless, that in itself is not going to be the answer. So it's finding that harmony where you can kind of blend it, and it's very fluid. There's that give or take. It's just never going to be like this.
Yes. Thank you for explaining that, because a lot of times, even myself, and I know a lot of other people that have to deal with the internal of what they're telling you what you need to do. And then you're trying to please your client and they're like, well, no. And you're like, oh, how do I do this without?
How do you do it? Yeah, it's not very easy. But here's the thing that's important here, where sometimes where these things can change, because things change. The companies that hold daily huddles, and when I say a huddle, we're not talking an hour-long meeting that people dread and figure it's a waste of time. Right? You can relate to that, right? I've been there. It's the daily huddle that's like 10 or 15 minutes long at that. And what we're doing here is that we're looking at the huddle where we share what we're going to be doing that day, our role and duties. And then from that, we can now interject what's working, what's not. So if there is wiggle room or something that can be tweaked with one of our protocol or procedures that we thought was, and we can alter it because we know it's going to work. Yes. Then that we could come up in a huddle.
I love that. I love that. Yes. Well, Chris, I appreciate you so much. What I want to do real quickly though, if you can leave just some the lasting impression, words of wisdom that you want, and then we want to sum it up. So I'm going to take myself down. I'll be right back.
Well, yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to thank you, Barbara, for having me here again on your Visibility Corner. It has been incredible to be here. And here's some things I would just with everyone here today to kind of like think about it, while you take this information in. We are all a work in progress. It's about the process. It's not about the destination. This is a journey. We're not going to graduate here. We're just looking, how can we get better each and every day? It's not about being the best. It's about being your best. But when we can show up and make sure that we have everything in check and maximizing what we can control every day, our communication to ourselves and others, our behavior, our attitude, it's happening for you, not to you, your emotions and how you respond versus react to situations and people, and your action. And just learning that by being the example and being a resource for that, and learning how to give without expectation from empathy and kindness, and receive without resistance. What that means is that when you're being the example of these things that you can control, you can give that through your example, be resourceful for it, but do it from a place of empathy and kindness. You're not doing it for people. You're empowering them to do it for themselves. That's what allows people to grow. And those are the things that when it comes back to you, you receive it, fill your cup. And when you fill your cup, you can now spill it on to other people and repeat the process in a good way moving forward.
Moving forward. Thank you, Chris, so much for coming on the Visibility Corner. You gave so much good information. Please reach out to this guru, this king. I have his information at the bottom. As you see, he can just do so much wonders with you within your business, helping escalate that, help accelerate it. He has a business academy e-learning program, so much that he has for you. So again, thank you, Chris. Chris, you are family now. So anytime you want to come back, you are welcome.
Count me in. I love being on your show.
Hey, so to let everybody know, we'll see you next time in the Visibility Corner with Barbara J. Beckley. And like I always say, maximize your reach, because your gift is important for you, not only you, but for the world. Take care.